Well, right now, a new interview from President Obama laying out his thoughts in the battle against ISIS, along with a series of other topics. His strategy, certainly, though, against ISIS is facing some growing criticism. Sitting down with the Atlantic magazine, he says, quote, "I don't think we're losing. And I just talked to our CENTCOM commanders and the folks on the ground. There's no doubt there was a tactical setback, although Ramadi had been vulnerable for a very long time, primarily because these are not Iraqi security forces that we have trained or reinforced." Later in that same interview, the president went on to say, quote, "We're 8 months into what we've always anticipated to be a multi-year campaign." Former Special Forces officer Ben Collins served 3 tours of duty in Afghanistan as a Green Beret and joins us now. So, Ben, let's just take the president's comments bit by bit here. He goes, "I don't think that we're losing." So, Ben, are we winning?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, if a man, the man states that we aren't losing, to me that indicates that he does recognize at least that we're in a fight. And I believe if we're going to be in the fight, then we should probably be doing as much as we can to win this fight. But from his perspective, I mean, look at the trail of disaster that we've seen from the initial cities in Iraq to the beheadings of Americans to burning people in cages, and at each time we just, he's able to come on and say, almost kind of play it cool that it's not such a strategic loss or it's not as big as we're all making it. But the reality, Jen, it is a big deal, especially now that they have Ramadi. They're effectively cutting off one of, if not the only road into Baghdad. So, I mean, it's a tremendous loss. So
let me ask you about this, because in your time serving, I'm sure you were a part of, directly or indirectly, the training of forces on the ground in Afghanistan, for example. We've trained a lot of forces in Iraq as well, and we've seen what has happened. Many a time they've put down the weapons, they've turned away, they've decided that they didn't want to fight. So I wonder the wisdom in this decision by the Pentagon to expedite 2,000 AT-4 anti-tank rockets to Iraq as early as next week. Is that a smart move?
Well, Jenna, the weapon is as good, really, as the person is using it, right? I mean, the anti-tank weapon, the AT-4, is a very simple weapon. I mean, it's effectively point and shoot. And the IEDs, the vehicles that they're using are Humvees, by the way, that they're loading with explosives. It would be a pretty good weapon to use against such a threat. But the reality is, we could give all these guys lightsabers and it wouldn't really make a difference, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is these guys are only as good as they're going to be if their will is there. And I've seen it when these soldiers that we train, when they have Americans standing next to them, and we're there to offer our expertise. They see the bravery of the American soldiers. Not just that, but we all have a radio that talks to the planes that are overhead with the close air support. I can't tell you how fantastic, knowing that close air support is minutes away, and they just don't have that anymore. So, we've removed that capability. We don't have the soldiers next to them giving them the guidance that they need. So, it doesn't surprise me that they're running.
I want to take these two topics together. We're talking a little bit about Iraq, but we're also looking at these bin Laden documents that have recently been released. The president also said in this interview that this is a multi-year campaign in Iraq. I'm assuming the fight against ISIS is what he's talking about in this interview. If we take a look at Afghanistan, the war in which you served, the longest war we've ever had in our country. Now we're seeing these bin Laden documents be released, and it really shows us the operations of al-Qaeda. As an operator, Ben, what do you think of these documents, not only about what they say about bin Laden, but about the war that we're currently still fighting?
So certainly, I mean, when I just looked at the list of these books, since they've been released, and to be honest, I was impressed. To me, it seemed like an individual that was really trying to understand the fabric of America, right? What are the pillars of our society and our institutions, and what makes them strong, and how are they susceptible to attack? I mean, he looked at everything from our economic prowess, trying to understand the Fed and their policies, to diplomacy, and he even did a lot of research, it seems, on the Vietnam War and understanding how popular support can really play a significant amount of effect when it comes to national policy. So, and I think, he also published some letters, and some of the letters that weren't published, but essentially just talking directly to us as the American people, saying this is going to be a long, drawn-out war. A lot of your soldiers are going to be killed. Really trying to make that parallel to Vietnam, essentially, to almost, back it off. One thing I will say, Jenna, that was pretty interesting was he did clarify in a lot of letters when he was out to his organization, you know, how great, or at least from our perspective, you know, just about how fantastic the drone program was in actually working and keeping his organization denigrated.
It certainly was. That was a point underscored. I'm going to have to leave it there because we're up against a hard break, but appreciate your thoughts as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.